everyone, this is Nikki from Little Blue Artworks, and today I'm going to be showing you how to needle felt a lovely little unicorn. So inside your project packs you should have a business card with my logo. On the reverse is my website, Instagram, my Facebook, and a contact page. And you should have a welcome letter, and it will have all your contents listed inside. It will also have the link to this tutorial, as well as a link to a tutorial to show you the very basics of needle felting if this is your first time. You will also have a template which you can use as a guide. You will also have your 2 bags of wool. Inside the one that says core wool, you will have 25 to 30 grams of good quality core wool, and this comes in roving, which is in lengths, so that's easy to work with and it's easy to needle felt. In the other bag you'll have your colours. Inside here you'll have your white. This is the same or very similar to the colour of the core wool, but it's a lot softer to work with, and this is going to be to cover your unicorn with after to give it a smoother appearance. That part is optional. You will also have a small piece of pink carded batting which will be used for the cheeks. Again, this part's optional. And lastly, you will have your four pastel colours. This will be used for your mane and your tail. Here I have a blue, a red, a purple and a yellow, but in the tutorial I'll be working with slightly different colours. In your project pack you might have a different spectrum of colours, but they will all be pastel colours to suit each other, and you should have 4 different colours. You will also find in your project pack 3 needles. You have a green, which is your large needle, a pink, which is your medium needle, and a red, which is your small or fine needle, and 2 5mm glass eyes for your unicorn. It may come in a cork like this, or it might come in my new tubes. The eyes may come in the cork with the needles, or they might come in a small bag, but you should be able to find them okay. You will also find a handmade unicorn horn, which I've made from polymer clay. And lastly, you will also find your handmade needle felting bag. This is filled with organic buckwheat husks, and it's lined and should last you a good while. This is also biodegradable, as all my kits are plastic free. If you have any questions during your feltorial, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can find me on Facebook or in my Little Blue Felting group, which is a private group on Facebook. Please feel free to join and ask any questions, share your creations, and let me know how you're getting on. Enjoy your project. Hi there, so to start making the unicorn I'm going to need to have out my needles. I have all 3 here, my green, my medium and my red, and you'll need your needle felting stabby pad. Here I have one of my larger ones which might be available in my Etsy store. You can go and have a look, see what's there. If you're working from the kit you'll be working with the 7x5 inch stabby pad, which are all handmade and filled with organic buckwheat husks. There, I said it right. So first we're going to take out the core wool. You should have around 25 grams good quality core wool in your kit. This here is made into roving. So just to show you how to work with this, as it's roving it's come in lengths, and there'll be points in this where you just cannot break the fibres apart. See, I'm really trying hard there. However, you can peel it down the length of the wool this way, and there are certain areas in the wool, and some not, that you'll be able to break. So if you just hold it at a good length apart from each other and just pull gently, the wool will find a spot where it'll begin to break. And you have a piece there. So I'm going to start with the body. I'm going to need a little bit more than that, so I'm going to break off again just by pulling gently. Another length there. I think I'm going to need a bit more. The body's the biggest part. So here I have a good length, fairly good thickness. I'll twist it down to as dense as it can go so you can see how much I have there. And this is easy to work with because you can roll it. And just to work to this piece of wool here, I'm going to roll it up, not too tightly. Just into this sort of shape, and that will be the beginning structure of my body. Back onto the stabby pad, and I'm going to hold that down, and with my green needle start stabbing through the fibres, and you'll hear that nice crunch sound as it goes into the stabby mat. And what the needle is doing is poking through those fibres with the sharp point, but if you look closely at the needles, you'll see it has very small barbs on it, and these little hooks hold on to the fibre as the needle's going through the wool and push it and mat it together, which is the felting process. When you start felting, the fibre will start to stick to your mat, as you can see here. So I'm just pulling that gently off. I don't want a flat body, so I'm going to put it on its side, hold it, and start gently stabbing through this side. So again, it's just pulling those fibres into itself. It's also rubbing the follicles of the hairs together and matting them and tangling them and felting them, which will eventually end up as a solid piece of wool. I'm going to gently take it off the mat and turn it again. Now, as you're stabbing, this will sculpt your piece of wool into the shape that you're holding it. I'm giving good even stabs all over. I'm just going in an up and down motion because I don't want to break the fine needle. I'm going to turn it again. And we start to have the beginnings of what the body will be. This will be the bottom here, and it's still all fluffy, so I'm going to need to turn it onto its end there and start felting down into what the bottom of the body will be. I'm doing this very gently and carefully because I don't want to stab my fingers. You can also do it on its side this way, and I'm now just going to stab this all over, flat at the bottom, round like a cylinder all the way here, and this part here will be rounded at the top. So I'm just going to speed this up so you can see the final shape. So I'm finished felting my body, and you can see it's kind of a bullet shape. It's flat on the bottom, and this is just so we can get him sitting on a solid base. The top there is the top of the body where his head is going to rest, and it's been felted to a fairly firm base for him. The texture on the surface isn't that great at the moment, but we're just trying to get the structure for now. You also should have a template in your kit, and if you want to, you can just have a little look to see if this fits. Mine is slightly smaller, so I could add to that just to make that slightly bigger and then firm it down all over with the needle. So to add to that, I can just take a little bit more of that core wool and wrap it around the area, just like so, and then we can stab that all over, and I'll speed this bit up again. So now I have that felted on, I'm going to check it for size, and that's looking like a better size there. It does not have to be exact, guys. It's just a guide. So now we've done our body, we're going to work on the head in a similar way. I'm going to take some more core wool, and again you can either peel it to split it down. However, I'm going to pull it at the ends like this. Yep. I'm going to give it a quick twist around my finger to get a general size for the head, which might be a good size. Remember, when you're felting, it's going to end up coming very, very much condensed and a lot smaller, and you can always add to it. So this is the length I've got here, and it's about the length of 2 hands. Again, you can refer to your template here because you have the head. If I'm going to wrap this around my finger, it'll need to fit into that size-ish. So I'm going to go ahead and properly wrap that now fairly tight. Here we go. It's like this now. I'm going to take that off using your green needle, which is your large one. We're going to hold this again on the mat and stab it all over, and remember to turn it to get that cylinder shape, and we're going to end up with a round bit on one side, a round bit on the other side. However, one side will be slightly smaller, so as you're stabbing, you're going to be stabbing more on one side than the other to bring that in to that nose shape. And I'm going to speed this up. Gonna go in for the nose now. And the back of the head. Okay, so I think I have that. It's kind of an egg shape, a very small egg. I'm going to refer to the template, not a bad size. So if I was to connect the head to the body, this is what it would look like, and I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to connect the two together. I want the nose poking slightly over the body, the back of the head somewhat in alignment to the back of the body, and I'm just going to hold those two together upright like this. But just to show you, I'm going to go in with the large green needle through the bottom of the head and into the body like this. I'm going in at an angle, and I'm going to do that all the way round, but I'm going to do it sitting up on my pad like so, because it's a lot easier to do it this way, and I do this all the way around. Now that I've gone all the way around that way, if you want to extra secure it, you can just pop it on its head onto the mat and go in through the body and into the bottom of the head the same way and all the way around. That's just to give it some extra security to make sure it's definitely felted on. Now it's on quite securely. My head's a little bit in a distorted shape because I've been working on it. So I'm just going to go over it again with my needle. I'll probably bring down the size of its nose a bit, just make sure it's all nice and rounded as well. And you do that just by not stabbing all the way through, but just by stabbing on the surface of the area. You can start to smooth out those lumps. So anything you see sticking up that you stab will then come down, including the nose. And you just want to smooth that all over by short, small stabs. So I'm quite happy with him now. He's firmly felted together, not looking too shabby. And the next thing we're going to do is work on the arms and legs. So once you've done the head and body, you're going to see how much you've got left. I've got a fair bit here. I'm going to take some of this off and put to the side for the ears for later. I'm going to do it not by splitting its length, but I'm going to just take a piece off the end here by holding on with hands fairly far apart and just gently pulling. I'm going to split that in half for the two ears, fold it over my finger, and the other one should be the same. So I'm going to pop that aside for later. Then for the arms and the legs, I'm going to split this into four. So first of all, half it. I'm going to part that in the middle and just peel that all the way down. So I should have two. I'm going to peel this again in half and this one to make four. And they should be equal-ish sizes. Now to work the arms and the legs, this will be too long a length to work with. So what I would do is just take one of the lengths and half that this way. Now if I fold that over my finger, I'll have one length to work with for an arm there and another here. So I've got those two. I can take this one away. I'll take this one away, and there'll be extra that I can work with if I need to add to the size of it. This one I'll also break in half this way, again over my finger, so I can just have a look at that thickness there, over my finger there. So that will be the two legs, and these two will be for the two arms, and that is how we'll work with them. If they end up being too small, we can just use any of the extra wool to add to it. I'm going to start with the arms. So one arm, again that length, folding it over my finger just to thicken that up, holding it down on my mat. Sometimes I like to splay two fingers to hold down the ends, and obviously being very careful, going to start pushing that needle through the fibres and felting them together. Just a few stabs in and I don't need to hold that anymore, so I can save my fingers. Still using my big green one. Going to make sure it doesn't felt to the mat, but I'm going to fold the bottom up just to thicken that bottom part. And now I'm going to fold the top over, and that will thicken it further. Now it's fairly held together. I can try and take it off the mat gently. There we go. And just to thicken that up one more time, I'm going to fold the length up towards the end there. I'm going to tuck that right under, hold it down, and felt all over. Now you don't want it flat, so remember to turn it as you're felting. I'm going in at the end so it's got a slightly flattened hoof type area. And And this, once firmly felted, should be for your arm. This part here, that will be attached to the body. That's okay to be a little bit flattened. So before sticking that on, we're going to do the other one so we can try and get them at the same size. So just copy the one before, and I'm going to speed this up and do it exactly the same. Okay, so now we should have two similar sizes. I'm going to start by sticking the first one on. This is my flattened end here, and that's my hoofy end there. I'm going to put the nicer side on the outside, and this flattened part will be where the shoulder is. So I'm just going to hold that on there and just stab it through with my large needle. Mostly stabbing on the outside to attach it. That's that firmly attached on there. I'm going to do the same for this side. That's my little arms nicely felted on, so we're going to move on next to the legs. Okay, so moving on to the legs, I have my two pieces of wool here. Remember, the length should be folded over your finger. You can pop that down on the mat, holding it down, felting it through to hold it. Then I'm going to felt it all over, fold it up, fold it down, take it off the mat and turn it just as we did the arms. So one leg. Okay, now we should have two legs, kind of the same size. Mine's slightly longer in this one. Stick that down a bit. So now we can attach them on. We've got two hoofy parts and two flat parts, just like the arms. So the flat parts are going to go where the thighs would be, and you want it so that it's going to help it balance when it's sitting up. So that foot's going to poke out just like the arms do there, and it's going to be aligned with the bottom of the unicorn. So I'm just going to hold that on, stabbing through, mainly around the outside again, so it doesn't become too flattened. Even go along the leg a little bit. And then the other one, same position. Just going to check before I commit. That's the legs attached on, so I'm just going to firm up the body a little bit here. I'm not doing big stabs, I'm just going over the surface with my needle to get it feeling firm. He's looking really good now, so I'm going to get on to the ears next. Over two pieces of wool I put aside earlier. We're going to go for a similar size for both of them. Pop one aside, and again, just to get a good thickness on it, I'm going to put it over my finger, pop it down on the mat, and I'm going to hold that down and start felting a little bit to have a flat piece of felt come together. A few stabs and that will hold, and you can go in without your fingers. This part here will be for the bottom of the ear, so we're going to felt in the sides because they're a bit thin and fluffy, and it will come up to a point on this side of the ear. So to felt it into a point, I'm going to hold it together into a point and felt it down. I'm just pushing rather than stabbing because I don't want to kill my fingers here. And then the sides need to come in here, so they're a bit thicker. So I'm pulling that in either with my needle or with my finger, and you can go in and just push through and felt that edge. You want it a bit thicker. And then this edge here, you don't want it all thin and fluffy like this. So you're going to pull it and push it down until you feel like you've got a thicker edge, and push that through. Felting that all over now, and that is really going to stick to your pad. Remember to hold the tip. So you've felted a general shape there. Now you're going to have trouble pulling it off because it will have stuck to your mat. So just gently does it. Hold your ear together as you're pulling it off so it doesn't distort too much. And we've got it off there. Now I'm going to felt this side as well. Now have you got some scissors handy, some nice sharp scissors? Take that off my mat there, and I'm just going to cut off that fluff part into a point at the end. Now I'm just going to go all over that. If you feel it's too thin, you can just take off some of the fibres from your spare bit there and add it on for extra thickness if you need to. Mine was just a little tiny bit too thin for my liking, so I'm going to add that on. Then I'm just going to felt that shape again all over on both sides. Now if you want to, feeling it's a bit too fluffy, you can just go ahead and trim that extra fluff off, neatening up the edges there. You should have a nice firm bit of flat felt. Again, you can refer to your template. Mine is a bit too big, so I'm now just going to trim that down to size there. Perfect. Ish. Doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. I'd like to just firm that up a bit, so you can go in with either your large or your medium needle. Just if you have cut the edges like me, I like to just go over them again just to make sure they're nice and firm. So I'm going to do exactly the same for the other one. So we've got 2 ears. And as if by magic, I have 2. I saved you the bore of watching that twice. So in your project packs, you should have a little bit of pink. We're going to pop this inside the middle of the ears. Not going to take much, just a small pinch. You can break the fibres as long as you're not holding too much. To a very small amount there. Barely see that. But it'll be just enough to colour the inside there. Okay, we'll add a little bit more. There we go. I'm happy with that. Just to colour the inside. Now I'm going to go in with my medium needle. This is the pink one. I'm just going to gently hold down my ear. And I'm not going to stab all the way through into the mat as if I was sculpting as we made the body. I'm just going to tap it in, mainly in the middle of the ear, just to gently connect those fibres on. I don't want it coming all the way through the back. If I was to stab it through, you'd start to see the pink coming through the back of the white ears. So just gently tapping it in. I'm going to do that with the other one. Now we have our 2 ears there. Want to get them into their ear shape. We do this by folding that bottom part, those 2 points together, like so. I want those 2 parts felted into a flat area, so I'm going to pop it on its side there and just go through, either with your large or your medium needle. I'm going right through now into the mat, and that will felt those 2 parts together. Gently take it off and do the other side. And there you go, it should be holding together. I'm going to do the other one the same. There we go. I'm going to go in with the large needle just inside the bottom there, just to give it a little bit of depth right there at the bottom of the ear. Same with the other one. Really make it look like it's going deep inside there. So now we have our 2 ears. It should be flat on the side, ready for connection. If you refer to your template, this was the original shape here, and this is just showing you how to fold it over. So now we're going to finish working on the texture of the body before we pop the ears on. Right, so here I have for my colours pack some lovely white merino wool. It is a very similar colour to the core, however it's a lot softer to work with. So So I'm just going to unravel that. As it's roving, which means it's those long lengths of fibres like this, you can separate it by peeling it this way, or if you want to break it lengthways, again you just hold it with hands far apart and just gently pull. This will be harder to come apart than the core wool, just to work with a length at a time. I don't want anything too thick because I don't want my unicorn becoming too bulky. I'm just going to half that again to give me smaller parts to work with. I'm going to start by covering the head with this. It's quite a long length, so I'm going to have the fibres come right up there from the bottom and over the head and then finish there under the neck. If you have longer fibres, you could keep going all the way down the tummy there. If you have shorter ones, you could just start with the head there. We're going this way. So I'm going to attach that on the bottom first, because the bottom doesn't matter too much about the texture, because these obviously sitting on it. I'm just going to stab that right in with my green needle, which is the large one. Now that's connected on nicely, I can start to gently pull the fibres up over the back, and I'm going to connect them here around where the neck is. I'm going to go in with my medium needle because, again, not worried about the texture too much in between those two parts. And then over this area here, I'm going to use my fine needle, which is the red one, and I'm just going to gently tap that in. Be very careful with your red needle. This is the thinnest needle in your pack. It's the most likely to break, and it's also the most likely to stab you in the finger. So gently tapping that in, just up and down when you're doing it. It's very easily bent because it's so thin. Now I've tapped that over, I'm going to use one of my thicker needles just to brush those fibres down a bit. That just takes out a few of those needle marks and brushes that down to give a nicer, smoother texture. Coming up over the head, I'm going to make it wide enough to cover that head there, and in under the neck with either the medium or the large. Connect that right in there. Now that's connected nicely. I'm just going to go all over the head again with the fine needle, which is the red one, including just pushing down bits on the side and tapping them in. Okay, now I'm just going to come down from under the neck over the tummy area, taking off as much as I need. I'm going to bend over the top there, that gives me a better edge to work with under the chin. Using my big needle to stab in the bottom, just to hold that on tightly. I have some extra bits there, I'm just going to stab on with my fine needle, just the ends of that bit of fluff that came down over the tummy. Now I'm going to use my fine needle all over the tummy area. Now that's the tummy and the back done. I do need to cover the sides and also the legs and the arms. Take off some smaller pieces to work with. I'm going to go for the arm first. Over this way, down over the arm, round the hoof, and then connect there inside the armpit. I can do that with my large or my medium. This side, I don't want big stabby marks, so I'm just going to hold that down and just tap again with my fine needle, and I'll do that all over that arm, including these bits that should be coming down and underneath here. Just feathering the ends of those bits of the fibre downwards so that they're going in the same direction as the back there. And just gently going all the way around. That's given it a slightly better texture, smoother appearance than the others. So I'm going to do the same with all the other arms and the legs. I have a small piece here which I'm going to break the fibres from so that they're shorter in length. You can't do it if you're holding a lot. You have to just hold a tiny bit at the edge there. So I'm pulling it and breaking it and then stacking it back up again. Now I have a shorter length there. We can make a little patch right here in between the arm and the leg, felting again with my red fine needle. Now that's that area covered. You can do the same on this end so we don't have this area uncovered with fibres going in different directions. I'm going to restack the fibres by just holding on to the ends, pulling, and if you're not holding too much, that will break the fibres, and then you can restack them under your thumb there. Have the fibres all going the same way, and if they're too long, I'm going to pull here from the top and break them, not holding too much at a time. This is going to make me a nice soft patch of the merino wool. If I cut it, I'll end up with a blunt line, which I don't like the look of. So I'm just going to keep on pulling the ends there off, breaking them, and then stacking them into that little soft patch there. And then I can pop that in between the top arm and the bottom leg, and using my fine needle, just stab that in. And that's those areas covered. Just going to finish off the arms and the legs now in the same way. Okay, so that is my unicorn now, covered with the soft merino felt. You can see some of the needle marks in it, but again, using your larger needle, you could give it a brush in the same direction as the fibres. It takes out some of them. You're never going to get rid of all of them really. The texture is definitely smoothed off a bit and improved. Of course, you could do that with any colour that you have handy, if you have other colours available to you. This unicorn is white, but it is time to get his ears on. So as the ears are pretty much the same colour as what we're working with here, we can just add them straight on to our unicorn. I'm going to place them on by holding it first, just at the back of the ear there. And you can either have them facing forward or facing to the side there. What I tend to do is go in and hold it by putting a needle through the bottom of the ear there. Then you can really look at where that's going. Try it at a different angle. Right here. Just try and imagine it. I know it looks like a bit like an Easter bunny at the moment, or a moomin with big ears. Just try and imagine the horns in there and lots of colourful mane and eyes. So we're going to attach that on now. That's being held at the moment by my red needle. I'm going to hold it with my finger inside the ear and I'm going to stab it through the back. Now obviously be careful not to be stabbing into your finger, although it is your nail side. So I'm going to use my medium and just going through the back there, attaching it into the head and pushing it in rather than stabbing, just to make sure I'm being extra careful. I'm going to go in the inside here and stab through here as well. Just going to give it a few stabs all the way around, ensure that's firmly felted on. There we go, that's one attached on. Just going to go ahead and do the other one, same way. Going in with my large needle to get the bottom of the inside of the ears. There we have our ears on. So next we're going to get on to the eyes. So in your project pack you should have a pair of 5mm glass eyes, and they'll have stems on it. If you want to, you can put a little bit of glue on the stem just to hold them in. Before we attach them in, I'm going to use the needles to place where I think the eyes should go. This does tend to look a bit funny. At least you'll get them in the same place. Now I've got their position. I'm going to take out that medium needle, just remember where that hole is. Use my larger needle to just gently stab in an area where the eye is going to go. This is going to make the eye socket. So I'm not stabbing all the way through. Again, I'm just pushing a little bit in, and that will take the surface of the face down so that there is an eye socket area for the eye to sit in. And I've made it a kind of an almond shape as well. And I do the same on the other side. Again, I'm just placing the needle to make sure it's in that same place. I'm always checking while I'm stabbing the other side, make sure they're both in the same spots. Okay, now we have 2 spots where the eyes are going to go. I'm going to make a hole right in the middle there with my large needle. If I put this in a few times, in and out, then I can pop the stem of the eye and push it all the way in so it's set back into that eye socket that we just made. I'm going to do the same with this side, right in the middle, in and out a few times, and you can push that stem in all the way in and have a look at the front just to check. If you happen to have some glue, you could just pop a little bit on the stem there. I use Bostik all-purpose clear glue. It dries very, very fast. You have to get that in quickly. I'm going to hold the needle in there because this glue is so quick drying to get the lid straight onto it. And in it goes. Remember to push it all the way in. Check. I'm just going to squish him. Still looks like an Easter rabbit. I may still chop those ears down a little bit. However, I'm going to add a little bit more wool over the eyes there. Just some of that soft merino wool. And again, I'm going to make a small patch by breaking the ends of the fibres, stacking them again on my finger, pulling down with my thumb, and with the other hand pulling and breaking. So I've made a small patch here with the merino wool. So I'm going to pull that in half. So I've got 2 small patches. I need to make that slightly smaller. Now this patch here is just going to be popped over the eye, so you can just about see it poking through. With my fine needle, I'm just going to tap all the way around the eye, so those fibres are just very gently attached. Now this larger area needs to be felted down. Now that they're felted down, I'm going to go in with my medium needle, pushing those fibres to the side of the eye and then down, until it starts to poke through, and that will give it a nice inset look for the eye rather than one that's sitting on the top like that. So now I'm going to do exactly the same for this eye with another little patch. So next I'm just going to make a couple of holes with a large needle for the nostrils. Going to make one here. Going to go in a few times. Probably best to do it on its back. So I'm going to get a hole there, hole there. If you have something larger, you can awl or a needle, large needle, just to get that nostril a bit more prominent. Okay, now I'm going to get the unicorn horn from the project pack. So here it is, and this was handmade by myself. You can always make your own. It's just some white polymer clay on a toothpick, and I have some gold glittery polymer clay, which I then decorated the outside with. And this will get popped straight into the head of the unicorn. I know, this is going to look sore. So first, I'm going to make a hole right in between, maybe just in front of those ears. I'm going to do it with my large needle, and hopefully the toothpick will be sharp enough to go in there. And that should be it. I have done that squint, so I'm going to reposition that. In it goes. There we are. And later you could put a little bit of glue in that, but for now we're going to work on the mane and the tail. In your project packs you should have 4 colours. These might not be the exact colours that I give you. We have a pink and a purple, a red and a yellow here. You should have a mix of 4 pastel colours. They might come rolled up in your bags like so. If they are, you just need to unroll them in the lengths that they're there. And this will need to be halved, so half of it is for the mane and half of it's for the tail. Now you could try and pull them this way, but you're probably not going to get very far. So we're going to go one at a time. I'm going to start here with the red, see if we can pull this in half gently. Okay, so 1 pile for the mane, 1 for the tail. I'm going to try with the yellow now. You could split it down the middle this way, but really it's going to be too long a length for you to use like that, and you need to do it this way. If you're finding you're just not getting that to come apart, just separate your hands a little bit more further apart and just gently pull that. Okay, now we have 2 piles. So here's the first pile. That's got a thicker length, so I'm going to make that the start of the tail there. I'm going to put all the thicker lengths at one end. Now these 4 pieces I want to come together, so I'm just going to twirl it around my finger. They're all coming together like so. Fold it over my finger so I've got a big blunt end there. Now I can felt this down into my mat with my green, just pushing rather than stabbing. That will connect those 4 colours together. Turning it and stabbing it. There we have it. If you find that's still too long, try pulling some of the ends off. Try and just shorten that to have them all similar. Again, you can only pull off a little tiny bit at a time to do this. You can break the fibres to a shorter length as long as you're not holding on to too many. You could cut it, but again you'll end up with a very blunt edge. I'm going to pull the yellow just to have that feather a little bit. Okay. So they should now be of a similar length, and this part's going to be stuck into the bottom of our little unicorn there. So he's now face down on the mat. I'm going to hold that big ball there, and then I'm going to push through with my large green needle right into the bottom of the unicorn. I'm going to do the other side. And at the top. Now that's firmly on there. Yep, it's not going anywhere. I'm going to twist that around my fingers, not too tightly, and have the tail coming down, holding on to the side there. Just going to felt that a little bit there so that part of that tail attaches. You can just have it free flow coming at the back. I just like to have it coming round to the front, so I'm just going to do a few stabs in there, and it's twisted and curled round, coming to the front like this. You can have it going over the leg or under it, or just sitting beside the unicorn. And that is the tail, and that's looking pretty. Now onto the mane. So we've got our 4 colours here as well. This here is going to be the fringe, so you want the ends coming to the same position. Just make sure they're all ending in a similar area. Pull off together. There we go. And again, the length is a bit too lengthy for what I need. So I'm going to try and pull that in half again. Try it with all 4 and see if that works. Not really. Okay, going to go back to individuals and pull that in half. Remember, if it's not pulling apart, just widen your hands further apart. Some shorter lengths now. Now time to attach it on, so we need to take that horn out and just try and remember where that hole is there. Now, do you want a big fringe? How far do you want this to go? I think, again, we've just got too much of a length here. So I'm going to half that once more. There we go. Try that now. That's a bit better. I've got a nice bit of fringe going on there. It's quite long. You can just pull some off the ends there to shorten it if you want to. And I'm going to attach that on with my large needle in between the ears there. Can you see all the colours? She has a little bit of a side sweep to her fringe there. Or he, might be a he. And that's the mane done. You could felt it down a little bit more if you want to, onto the head. I would go in between the colours so you don't get those stabby marks. I can hold that on a little bit there. And you've got that nice bit of fringe coming. There we go. And then we need to remake that hole where the unicorn horn is going because I cannot see it at all there. Again, I'm going to use something larger to make that hole. That'll help me both see it, and it'll help it to get in there a lot easier. There we go. If you want to, you can go back and just add a little bit of that pink from your project pack to under the cheeks. Don't need much. I'm using my fine needle just to tap that in there on the other side. Enough to give a tiny little bit of blush. And there we have our pretty little unicorn. Ain't she cute? I hope you enjoyed your project today and you find a safe place to keep your little unicorn. If you enjoyed this project, I have other kits which you can find in my Etsy store, and I also have some video tutorials up on my Little Blue Artworks YouTube page. So thanks for watching everyone, and hopefully be felting with you again soon.